Hello, and welcome to another week of Central Reads, our 2024 Bible reading plan. This week we are kicking off a brand new book. It is the letter to the Hebrews, or the book of Hebrews. Hebrews is a kind of unique book in the New Testament. We're not exactly sure who wrote it. There's a bit of mystery behind it. It's not super important who wrote it, but it seems like it's someone who didn't write anything else in the rest of the New Testament. The book of Hebrews, it is a deeply Jewish book. I mean, all of the New Testament is deeply Jewish, but this is extra. It's so deeply rooted in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, and just in the whole story. It's almost impossible to read Hebrews if you haven't ever heard the story of the Old Testament. So much of it won't make any sense. One of the best strategies for reading Hebrews, and I warn you, it'll take a bit of time, is as you're reading, your Bible probably will have references to like what it's talking about, and then go back to the Old Testament and see what the letter to the Hebrews is all about. Hebrews is a wonderful book. It's confusing if it's a book, if it's a letter. It doesn't read like a letter. It's called the letter, but it's not really a letter. I think most people think it's actually probably some sort of like sermon or something like that would have been given in the first century. It's a little unclear as to what it actually is, because it kind of just begins and launches into it. If it is a letter, it's missing the greetings and that sort of thing. But the way Hebrews begins really kind of sets the tone for it. Long ago, God spoke to our ancestors in many and various ways through the prophets, but in these last days, he has spoken to us by a Son. And then he goes on to say that this Son, Jesus, is the reflection of God's glory and the exact imprint of God's very being. He sustains all things by his powerful word, purification of sins, sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high, and having become superior to the angels, has a name that's more excellent than all of theirs. That really kicks off the whole letter to the Hebrews. And in short, it's Jesus is God, like the rays of the sun is to a sun. Like, Jesus is the revelation of God. Jesus is how we see who God is. And the letter to the Hebrews is kind of one instance after another how Jesus is better. Jesus is superior to angels, to Moses, to priests, to sacrifice. Jesus is the best of all of it. And because Jesus is the best, Jesus is superior, he is how we know God, we can hold on to him. And we can keep our trust and our faith in him, even and especially when things get rough, when we start to suffer. Because that was clearly who the Hebrew letter was written, or book was written to, people who were beginning to go through some suffering. Anyway, read this book. It is challenging. It's a little different than what you've read before. If you have questions, please ask me. I highly recommend watching the Bible Project's summary introduction video to it, because it is excellent. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and enjoy our week of reading Hebrews.